Good evening. This is Brad Sunderling, filling in for David Spritz.
And this is Teresa Garland, and you are watching a special segment of Apocalypse Today.
Today at noon, a brief look back at the history of nuclear weapons. What are the effects of them, and what have they wrought upon our society? We will also be having a debate between two of our special guests and a live on-the-spot report.
Right now we want to look back at the history of what caused the devastation we see today. The history of nuclear warfare and weapon is a grim one. From the start of the study of atoms to the full-scale production of the hydro bomb capable of leveling cities, this has led to a tension between countries to one-up their competition to prevent a full-scale nuclear war. Despite their best efforts, these countries actually made the world a tenser place as nuclear weapons sit around waiting to be disposed of. Now with developing countries getting more powerful, there's been a push for them to develop nuclear weapons to compete with the developed countries. The history of nuclear weapons started in the early 20th century with scientists understanding more and more about the atoms. Prior to World War II, Germany and the US scientists studied how to use nuclear fissions as a weapon. Fearing that Germany would succeed in making a nuclear fission weapon, Allied nations worked together to construct their own nuclear fission weapon to counteract these made by Germany. Thus led to the tube alloys projected by the British and the Manhattan Project by the United States. Several years later, the US had completed a nuclear bomb, but had yet to test on it. On July 16, 1945, their first nuclear test, codenamed Trinity, took place. After the success of Trinity, and with the conflict with Japan still brewing, there was much discussion about whether the US should drop their nuclear bomb on Japan. It was soon decided that they would drop two nukes, one on Hiroshima and the other on Nagasaki. With these two bombs, the only two nukes to ever be used in warfare, the Second World War ended. The next chapter involves the Cold War. In the years following World War II, there was much debate over who should control atomic weapons. Also, there was increased tension between the US and the Soviet Union. With this tension and the difference in nuclear weapon technology, the Soviets started spying on the Manhattan Project and developing their own nuclear weapons. This led to nuclear arms race between the US and the Soviets. This arms race led to the US production of the hydrogen bomb as well as the Soviets' production of a similar bomb. Because of the seemingly infinite destruction that hydro bombs could cause, many societies started to believe that nuclear weapons would lead to the downfall of humanity and should be limited. As testing nuclear weapons was seen as a sign of technological development, halts on testing were often called for as stand-ins for the halts in the nuclear arms race itself. And many prominent scientists and statesmen lobbied for a ban of nuclear testing. In 1963, all nuclear and What led to a further stalemate between the US and the Soviets to use nuclear weapons was the idea of mutually assured destruction, or MAD. What MAD taught was that if one country attacks with nuclear weapons, the other country would have to retaliate, thus causing destruction of both countries. Many close calls were made during the Cold War. One was the Cuban Missile Crisis. This involved the Soviets bringing missiles to Cuba in response to the US putting nuclear weapons in Turkey. There was a stalemate and negotiations between the superpowers, which in part led to the signing of the Partial Test Ban Treaty in 1963. The PTBT led to both countries to withdraw their nukes. During the Cold War and following it, many other countries tried their hand at developing nuclear weapons. The countries during the Cold War included France, Great Britain, India, South Africa, and China. After the Cold War, countries including Israel, Iran, and most recently, North Korea, have developed or been developing nuclear weapons. This has, like in the Cold War, caused tension between the countries developing and the countries participating in the Limited Test Ban Treaty. Even after the end of the Cold War, nuclear weapons and the fear of nuclear fallout have never ceased. The only true end to nuclear arms race and the anxiety of a nuclear apocalypse is the eradication of all nuclear weapons. Even though that seems impossible in the current state of the world, if we really put our minds to it, we can accomplish it.
Thank you for that report, Teresa. Although the thought of eradicating all nuclear weapons would have been a good thing, right now it is far too late for that. It has been speculation for some time as to what caused our nuclear apocalypse. The area we are in was 10 miles away from a missile base that was blown to oblivion in the early days of the attack. By whom? We don't know. Afterwards, information from sources, especially from other parts of the world, have become scarce, and oftentimes falsely exaggerated. To tell you the truth, we do not know who fired first. All we can do in this case is speculate. And with the following scenarios, we may not have the truth, but at least it's a start. First, an accidental war. Let's say during a time of global turmoil between countries with nuclear capabilities. One country, let's say Russia, experiences a glitch where its early warning system falsely detects U.S. nukes heading their way. This error would cause the Russians to retaliate against the U.S. and its European allies. The U.S. and Europe would then retaliate with their nuclear weapons on Russia and China because of their nuclear stock. Israel would then retaliate against Russia and attack its Middle Eastern allies. And then India and Pakistan would eventually destroy each other. Why? To knock out the other's nuclear capabilities. Then the rest pretty much speaks for itself. But this scenario can go either way. Let's say the U.S. has this glitch. The result would pretty much be the same. The U.S. attacks Russia, Russia and China retaliate back. You get the picture. But what if this devastation wasn't really an accident? What if it was an act of aggression all along? In this case, one or more nations deciding to use weapons against nuclear or non-nuclear nations in order to promote an economic, political, or military goal as a part of an ongoing war, or as a first strike nuclear attack. A good example of this? Korea. A country divided, north and south, for more than 60 years. The South is a presidential republic, and the other is a communist dictatorship with nuclear capabilities. The North has been known for its hostilities and constant threats of aggression. In this case, the threats may have finally come true. The North strikes the South with nukes and attempts to do the same to the U.S. At this point, the U.S. responds with their nukes, Russia or China will then respond, then Europe, and then other countries with nuclear capabilities get involved and cause nuclear Armageddon. Okay, so unfortunately due to time restraints, we must cut this segment short in order to have time for the debate. Teresa?
Up next, we are hosting a debate between two of our special guests, Mr. Gus Pendleton, joining us live via video screen. Mr. Pendleton, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me on your program today.
Before we get to our second guest, I have a question for you, Gus. Where are you recording from, and is that a toilet behind you?
I'm live from a hallway, and the toilet is irrelevant to this debate.
Okay, and on CB we have Ned Schultz. Are you there, Ned? 10-4? Do they still do 10-4?
Yeah, I got your 10-4 right here.
Good to talk to you too, Ned.
For tonight's debates, should us survivors unite together and rebuild our old society, or should we remain scattered as we are today? We'll start with the first topic. What are the pros and cons on remaining divided or united? Gus, what can you tell us you think are the pros to forming a community?
I would have to say that the most positive aspect of having a community like ours, Westport, is that everyone has something to offer. Whether it's goods or skills, everyone is contributing to the survival efforts, greatly increasing our town's chance to see another day.
Now, what kind of goods and services are you referring to in this case?
Well, food, medical supplies, tools, survival expertise, medical knowledge, engineers, volunteering, anything we can try to get by.
So Ned, what do you think are your pros on surviving individually?
Well, I wouldn't refer to it as individualism because we're just a small group of 6 people. I think what's good about being in a small group is that everyone is working together closely and keeps a low profile.
Now, when you say low profile, what do you mean?
I mean we're low on the radar. We don't attract that much attention from bandits or other crazy people. It beats living in town, especially in this area, because from what I hear, bandits have been attacking towns like crazy. In fact, Gus, your town just got attacked, right?
Ah, yes, that is true, but we can fight them off, no problem. But what about you guys? When you get attacked, what do you guys do?
Like you, we fight back. But if they outnumber us, we're screwed. So we pick our fights, but not unless they assault us.
Well, there's your problem. Let's say there's 12 bandits and 6 of you. They'll overpower and have their way with you. But a community of 80 against 12 bandits? Well, we'll have our way with them, if you catch my drift.
Do you realize how sick you sound with it, Buffalo Bob?
Shut up for a second and let me finish.
Okay, you two. Settle down. Now, you both made some valid points. In some areas that have bandits, towns are oftentimes targeted, but they have the resources to respond in a quick, swift nature. Now, groups can keep a low profile, but when under attack from bandits, low numbers can cause the downfall of a group and everyone in them. But where does leadership come into the role of survival? Ned, your thoughts.
Our group doesn't really have a leader. We usually take a vote on the rash decisions, like who should take watch, or who should scout, or that kind of thing. Everyone has their opinion and vote on whatever our next move should be.
Now, Gus, what were your thoughts on leadership?
If Ned's group wants to solve all their issues by vote, that's their choice. But leadership helps create a balance within the community. Our leader pretty much tries to make this machine we call Westport up and running. Keep this machine up and running. Of course we do have rules, but they're to protect the people living in this community.
I don't know, Gus. I don't think leaderships work out. Basically, it's your leader. Is he a good guy who cares about people? Or is he, like a dictator, like Joseph Stalin, or worse? He could be a satanic cult leader, which, by the way, people, try and steer clear from Shady Brook. The satanic cult really does exist there. All I can say is that they are not what they appear to be. They'll grab you when you least expect it and do horrible things to you.
Shady Brook, please, we trade with them, and they're a nice community. How about you stay on topic and not deflect?
Oh, gee, I'm sorry I offended you.
Not
But my
offended.
point is, leaderships can go two ways. They can either help or hurt people. Even if they appear to be nice and somewhat legit, don't trust them or else they'll end up in a glass jar going to Westport.
Hey, you're wrong. You're wrong about that. Why don't you back up your claim there, stupid?
Who you calling stupid, Baldy?
Fuck!
Whoa, hey, please keep the language clean.
Sorry.
Haha, you got yelled at.
Enough, Ned. You guys have to keep it clean. It's not our fault we get complaints about language.
Okay, let's just move on to the next question. Should there be trading between small groups and communities? Gus, everything all right?
It's okay. Power just cut out. There it is. I think trading between communities is a good thing. Even though I have my disagreements, but trading with smaller troops is a good thing because groups can sometimes have interesting things, such as antiques, do-rags, banjos, toenail clippers, toilet paper, toilets, dinosaurs, cups, lamps, lights, zombies, hustler, guitars, trash cans, CDs, DVDs, hot dogs, Twinkies, books, tools, booze, goats, pigs, cereal, microwaves, shampoo, beds, couches, cows, hot dogs, zombies, goats, pigs, cows, guitars, trash cans, CDs, DVDs, hot dogs, Twinkies, books, tools, booze, goats, pigs,
Okay, he's
cereal,
muted.
microwave, shampoo,
This thing
beds,
is going nowhere
couches,
fast.
cows,
Should we just cut
hot
to
dogs,
Frank?
zombies,
He's ready to
goats,
go
pigs,
live.
cows,
I'm fine with that.
do-rags, banjos, toenail clippers, toilet paper, toilets, dinosaurs, and poultry.
We're expecting some technical difficulties with the debate, so we're cutting live to Frank, who is recording from out there in the wasteland.
Are you there, Frank?
Frank?
Good evening, Teresa and Barry. I'm reporting live from inside a computer.
Frank, you dropped your mic.
What? What?
You dropped your mic.
Oh, good grief. Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I am reporting from inside a convenience store located in Hinkley Road. The winds are picking up outside, making it absolutely difficult to record anything out there. But I did manage to obtain some footage before then of what nuclear warfare has wrought upon the environment, community, and life as we knew it.
Now, Frank, we should ask you because we have received complaints about graphic content, especially about that interview that went astray last week. Did you by any chance record anything obscene that we should know about?
Absolutely not. Well, there is one thing but I feel it's relevant to this segment.
Well, go ahead and show us then.
This first shot is what's left of an industrial area. Buildings barely stand. Roads are barely intact, and some structures remain. But for how long? This was inside the gas station. There were signs of life previously here, with bags left behind and the lights still on. As you can see, the unforgiving elements of rust molding in time takes its toll on the inside. If you may notice at the bottom right, the wind blows. What it contains could very well be fallout. Fallout is the residue left over after a nuclear explosion. It is expelled into the atmosphere, the water, and the land, and the wind just blows it around, making it dangerous to travel. I arrive at what used to be a community. The streets are deserted with no signs of life. There is what appears to be vegetation growing back. Oh, sorry about that, the camera glitched. The only thing I could say about this area is I guess the lack of fallout is giving plant life a chance to regrow. Now Frank and Teresa, this was that clip I warned you about. While I was traveling on the highway, I came across these bodies. This is a reality that nuclear warfare brings in our life more frequently than usual. Death. I found it best to move along so I don't wind up like them. This, of course, is a tree. It is unclear to speculate whether this tree is aging or was a victim to high levels of fallout, in which case it damages the reproduction system. One last thing I want to show you. As you can see, this river, of course, is contaminated with fallout. Drinking water from here would do great damage to your internal system and kill you very quickly. I should also say here that marine life ceases to exist. This concludes my report.
Now, Frank, I have just one quick question for you. Did you come across any sign of life during your report?
Not at all. No people, nor animals. This is what you consider as no man's land. I hate to digress for a second, but I have just received an update from Kathy about the weather in Boslo. And this is what she wrote. After months and months of waiting, we are still not out of our nuclear winter. And with all this ash and soot in the air, it appears we won't be getting out of it anytime soon. On top of the lack of sun, the temperature has dropped to below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and the ozone layer still seems to be depleting rapidly due to the radiation, which means the risk of being exposed to ultraviolet radiation is becoming greater and greater. To conclude, I do not recommend anyone leaving your house today. I would not recommend even leaving your shelter today on Boslo. Or ever.
Frank,
for
Frank,
that
Frank,
matter.
Frank, Frank, Frank,
What did I do?
What is it? Oh my...
Tune in tomorrow where we interview Gladys Murphy, where she will give a video tour of her cat sanctuary and what else is new out there in the wasteland. Thank you for watching Apocalypse today.